Welcome to Win Your Mind, Win Your Market, the podcast where we dive deep into the mindset that drives business success. We believe that winning in business starts with winning in your mind. Every week, we bring you the biggest names in the home service space. Industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators who share their insights on how a winning mindset has shaped their journey to success. Get ready to explore the strategies, habits, and mental frameworks that can help you not only excel in your business, but dominate your market. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering the mental game of business. I'm Ryan Fenn with Justin Judd. Let's get started, because when you win your mind, you win your market. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Win Your Mind, Win Your Market podcast. I am Ryan Fenn. I am joined in the studio with my co-host, partner, and wearer of hats that he doesn't actually represent, Justin Judd.
Now, one thing you're going to learn about Ryan is you can always guarantee that he's going to come in with a strong intro, and it's going to be different every time, and I never know what to expect, so it's not like I can quite, come up with a quick rebuttal that I'm going to, do every single time, because I never know what's going to happen.
You know, Ryan and I are together with one of Tommy's events out in, and he started to give me some of his background and working on the stage. So I'm thinking he's pretty good at improv.
That is one of his superpowers. I don't know if we've talked about that at all on the podcast, but Ryan did stand-up comedy for quite a while. Worked with some people like Pauly Shore. I don't know who else you did it with, but.
We could go into that. Daniel Tosh. Yeah, we can. Yeah. We don't have to go into
that. I think it's interesting, but it's kind of funny because we all arrive at the station on different trains at different times, and and we think to ourselves, well, what's the value of what we did to get here? Well, of course, you guys have the stage, you have to interact, and that's why Ryan's pretty comfortable. Yeah. And, that's not how I came to it. I was one with a wrench in my crib. I went off to engineering school, but that never got practiced. So here you go.
Well, and we should finish this introduction by I want to say, actually, this episode, I've said about all the other episodes that they, are really important, but... This is the one, you guys. This is.
By the way, anybody listening or watching, he's right. This is the episode that you really need to be listening or watching or both.
No, this is actually really exciting for me. When CHIIRP, started to make its cutting its teeth in the home service space, making room for it here. Al Levi was one of the early ones early on where I knew it was like, man, if I could get that guy's attention, we could go places. And it's just been really cool to see the relationship build. If you guys don't know, Al Levi is the godfather in contracting. He's the owner of 7 Power Contractor and has coached many, many people to success. So it's really just such an honor to have you here, Al. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. You know how you get to be godfather. First, you have to come from New York.
Yep.
And second of all, you have to be around a very long time.
Yep. Perfect. 1 and 2. We got it.
I got both.
Yep. So yeah, thank you so much. So Al, let's jump in. There's obviously most people listening to this are going to know who you are. You're very famous in the home service space. But a lot of times I've noticed that as we do get to know, we kind of, with social media, will think we know somebody really well because of kind of the story that the parts that we've consumed, and then also the parts that you just, as the owner of your social media, as we own, we put out what we want people to see, but that creates different stories for different people, I think. And so I think it's really important if we could jump in and tell us your background. You said you were born with a wrench in the crib. Tell us how you became who you are, as much as you're willing to share, that journey. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because a lot of you have seen my TikTok breakdancing videos, might think you know me, but that's
just what you choose to share on TikTok.
Do you really have TikTok breakdancing videos? Oh, I was
Justin,
like, dude.
Come on, Justin, pick it up.
At this point, it would be a shoulder out of place. It would just, you have to have the 911 on speed dial.
Justin was like, "Wait a second,
I
knew this."
Never seen Al on TikTok breakdancing.
Did I say I'm from New York City with a heavy dose of sarcasm?
Justin was so confused.
I was confused right there. What's the
timestamp on that?
Ryan,
what's the timestamp?
I'll take a note on that. Yeah.
Timestamp that one. Yes. I'm really glad you asked that, Ryan, because I think the most arrogant thing is, well, you guys all know me. That's
right.
Right. And that's really. I was born into the industry, like I was saying with the wrench and crib, but it was started out of my grandfather's gas station in 1936. My dad and my uncle took over from there. They moved into the fuel oil heating industry. For those in the Northeast, it's like propane gas for heating buildings.
Yeah.
And a little thing called World War II. World War II, they went off and had to go fight in World War II and then came back. And then they got really serious. My brothers and I have two older brothers that I worked with for all those years. We entered the business in the late 70s, early 80s. And now the good news to this story here is that my nephew and my middle brother, who's still there with them, they're still, wow. I've been out of the business 22 years and they're still rocking along. And on Long Island, New York, they're still
since 1937, still operational today.
Yeah. And as I said, the part that's really important is I've been gone 22 years and they're still rolling along.
Wow.
And so a lot of the things that I had put in place are there. A lot of the things they said, well, Al's gone, let's break that.
Yeah.
And there's things that they've done that I hadn't even conceived of because time wins. But the point of the story here is systems and operations and the things that we put in place, carry on pretty much to today.
That's really cool.
That's really a good thing. We did plumbing, heating, cooling, and then finally took on electricals. And really, the big part of this story is we were a New York City union shop. So I used to love when I went off to do my own, I left my brothers. By the way, the story has been told a few thousand times, so now it's 1,001.
Yep.
I gave 3 years notice I was leaving. 3 years. So all of you owners out there, you're lucky if you get 2 weeks.
Yeah.
1 week. In the old days, sometimes we'd find the truck in the yard with the keys on it, and we weren't sure if you were gone. We didn't know what was going on. But I gave 3 years because I had things to do. I was going to get people in place, and I wanted to make sure my brothers and my dad were left in good shape. And also, frankly, I didn't want to come back. I wanted to go and do what I had always wanted to do, which was really teach. And I never started out wanting to be a teacher. There was nothing. And they talk about personality profile, which the nicer word is motivational mapping.
Right.
Instead of calling it personality profile. And Ellen and I are big believers in it. It shows tendencies. It's not absolutes.
Yeah.
So one of the things is, there's not a lot of showman talent. But you've already seen me on stage.
Yeah.
And I will do what I have to do to get what I want. And so if I need you to learn something, I will stand on a desk with a stupid looking hat, which I will hate, but I will do it. So that's these absolutes of these personality profile. But as I went out, I was very lucky, had a lot of great mentors, a lot of great training. Dale Carnegie, 12 weeks. I took 12 weeks of training when I was working, 12-hour days, but I made sure I made those classes, and that really did start the beginning of changing how I did. And then I went off to do consulting, and because I had gotten well known, I was writing for magazines when people used to read trade magazines.
Yeah.
Before that was it, so I got even more known, and I worked with a lot of the best, greatest shops. And the good news is the majority of them really grew great, but not just big and profitable. But my tagline has always been less stress, more success, because that's what I wanted for myself.
Yeah.
People look at me now, and I think I'm not standing, but I'm 50 pounds lighter than I was at my top weight when I knew I had a weight problem. I went into a New York City Italian restaurant. And I walked to the door, and the maitre d' looks at me and he goes, "So what football team do you play for?"
You had a weight problem?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
To say I was eating my stress, Ryan, would be the understatement. We all pick our addictions, or
Yeah.
our addictions pick us. And I know you guys know what I'm speaking to. And none of us get away with it. Sometimes we
So
have healthy addictions, which is, being a workaholic. It's considered healthy.
Every time we go into these stories out, it's so amazing to me because we go into these stories and I always have these preconceived ideas, and I think this guy's had his, or I'll think that they haven't been through the trials for some reason. I'll go, he's
This
always
guy's had his shit together his entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then every single time, there's always a story that's like, wait a second, what you had you're obviously you look at you and you're like, no, that guy's never had a weight problem. I did that with Justin. It's like, that guy's never had a weight problem. He's skinny. Like, there's no way. You can't even envision, can't even think of that. And that's so I'm shocked at that.
Yeah.
I want to hear, you mentioned the Dale Carnegie School. That's really interesting. So you did a 12-week course with that, and when was
one
that?
of my great mentors in my life, Dan Hollihan, who was an industry writer, and he is how I met Ellen Rohr. And Ellen Rohr is the great financial. We worked as co-consultants. Yeah. We were also in the Zoom Drain franchise together with one of my customers that I had trained and brought along. And so all roads lead through Dan. But Dan said to me, he said, you got to go to Dale Carnegie. I go, Dan, I don't have time for that. I'm working all day. I'm selling them at night. I'm cleaning up stuff. And and he goes, you don't have time to not go.
Yeah.
You must go. And it really was, what he did tell me, which was a pretty funny thing, was he said, just so you know, you will sell your soul to win one of those pens, one of those weeks where you have to get up and talk. And my sales career was really started, my first job, one of my first jobs, my dad had me doing door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
Why did he have me doing door-to-door sales? Well, he knew I was shy. And people, again, have seen me and go, shy? Well, you don't sound shy to me. But this is the end of the story, not the beginning.
Right.
When I started, I used to sell to my shoes and not make eye contact, just to give you some idea.
Right.
And then I would go door to door, and after you get a few hundred doors slammed in your face, you do finally decide, I've got to start fixing some stuff. And the person that had to get fixed was myself. I had to learn how to have communication skills, eye contact, and handshake when people would shake your hand, which they don't want to do anymore. And understandably so. But the point of it is, I really needed to do this confidence. Yeah. By the way, getting back to Dan's story for a second, I told a story in one of those 12 sessions that my wife had never heard. And I was so passionate about it. I beat out a preacher who was there. One and only time that I beat him, but I was going to get that pen. So speaking to motivation and wanting to, when you really want to, it's a classic thing about, when you really want to, you will. Yes, until your mind is right, which is why you guys talked about when your mind. Speaking to when mind, when you market, after I was so miserable at sales. And the funny part of this is my dad was great at sales, but he was nothing like me. Nothing. Yeah. And so he was quiet and a great listener. And he just had this attitude of, I'm here to serve you. And people could feel it. And this is a very old commercial, but when he would talk like this, people would lean in. Yeah. And I would watch this while we were there, and they loved him. And so I thought, I'm going to be the same thing. And it was horrible.
Oh, totally right. So this is huge because first off, we see that you overcame things to become who you are. So the people that look at it and go, he's always had it figured out. It's really inspiring because it's like, he wasn't just naturally good at sales and he was able to figure that out. And the other part is that you saw that your dad was a really good salesperson and you said, I'm going to match that. And that never works, right? Whenever we see a sales game, we go, I'm going to be like that. And so I think the lesson behind learning sales and learning how to really be good at it is, we always go back to this, is just authenticity. the truth has to come out. And when you're trying to act like somebody else, it doesn't come across as honest or as truthful. And so I think I mean, people, you see a guy and you go, I'm going to say the exact same words that he did, and I'm going to do it in the same tone that he did. And then you can't sell for crap, right? And then you find your way, and it's like, it's cool because it's every path is specific for you and how you get to where you're supposed to go. So that is really cool. When was that course?
I think the hard part is you can't teach authenticity.
Nope.
So if you
you actually have to. I have a quick one, Justin.
So it's like you want to teach a salesperson, like, dude, there's certain things that you can follow and certain processes you can follow, but at the end of the day, like, you have to be authentic about the way that you do it, and it's really hard to actually teach that, is because authenticity is something that comes from within, and it's different to every single person.
Yep.
That is so spot on, and that's a great way to win your mind. By learning how to do that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would share with that is, I think they asked, like Michelangelo, how did you do the statue of David? He goes, David was always there. I just had to chip it away. And so this authenticity, we're so afraid that we will be exposed. And I'm speaking me, not you, me.
Yeah.
So afraid of exposing to the world, because I was a frightened kid. My mom died at the age of 4. My age of 4, not hers. So she was 39. And so, but the point of it is, I was wrapped in layers, as we all are. Protective cloth, whatever you want. And let's face it, 50 pounds was also protective cloth.
Yeah.
Right. We have to peel that away. We have to be willing to expose that. We have to let that stuff go to be able to get to what you talked about, Justin, which is being authentic. Now, systems, which is what I'm well known for, is what helped me get rid of the chaos. That's really the biggest thing. Because we were already making money. We were making a lot of money. But I could tell I was going to be a really rich, dead, young guy. That's a really good goal for any of you who are listening. And I've said it before because I don't know any other way to say it. But it's really this true, is you got to pull up. And you got to get your head right. So what's not known is when I did one-to-one clients, they knew this. I was really great at sales and marketing. And Ellen and I would ride together to jobs, and periodically, she wasn't ever driving, I was, and she would ask me inane questions while I'm trying to not hit another car on the highway. So I'm on the wheel, and she goes, what comes first, sales or marketing? And I look semi at her, and I go, marketing. She goes, well, if sorry, I said sales. I said sales. I said sales, not. And she goes, well, if you don't know how to market, you're going to go out of business. And I go, yes, but if you can't convert those things, you're going out of business anyway. And here's what I want to tell you is, if you know what makes your ideal customer, your target market customer or customers tick, and you can describe them to a T. When I would help people with marketing, I would make them describe every detail of that ideal customer or customers, target audience. Where do they live? What makes them tick? What are they, how do we reach them? What do we do? Where are they going? Why would they pick you? And that's that famous elevator speech, right? You're in the elevator, you got the ride from the top floor to the bottom floor to tell me why I should be picking CHIIRP.
Yeah.
Or 7 Power Contractor, or anything for that matter. So that's what I really believe is, the better you are at sales, the better you are at marketing. And then the better they can work with marketing companies, because it's easy for us, Mr. and Ms. Contractor, to blame our marketing company for success that we don't feel we're getting.
Right. This is a big
How about
deal.
how bad your CSRs are? Because you got a bathtub full of calls with a wide open drain. Here we go. Drain wide open.
Leads don't suck. You suck.
You suck. Try answering your phone. Try getting there and looking neat and clean, neat truck with the stuff you need, guys who are well trained. That's really so. Why did I get so good at operations and staffing and things of that nature is I got to be great. And I use that term, great at sales and marketing. and my team was really great at blowing it all up. So I pulled off the road and I went to work on that stuff. So I was sharing with Ryan and Justin before we came on here was when I would, and people one-to-one contractors, for 26 something years, 22 years actually, when I would work with them, and there were some great big companies and there were some very small companies, all different sizes, different points of their career, good families that just basically ran out of time and couldn't clone themselves, or large companies who had figured out how to make the phone ring. The bad news is every time the phone rang, they couldn't handle it, so gasoline on a fire. And my job was to step in and get that. So when I came in, I did my programs, planning, operations, staffing, sales, marketing, 5 programs. And if they wanted, Ellen would separately do sales coaching, which is a reward program, and financial power, which is how do you get to the budget and know financial positions and everything that she does. And then when we would get done, if we were working together, we would do leadership power. Every client loves leadership power. Every one of them loved it. And the question usually that came at the end of it was, why didn't we do that first? And I go, because when I arrived, you were drowning in the swimming pool. I don't think that's the time to teach you how to swim.
Right.
My job was to get you over to the side, teach you the basics, so when we go back in the pool, we can learn how to swim, and if we get really good, you'll do the butterfly stroke. The point of that is, so it doesn't matter, by the way, whether you start with leadership and then follow systems, or my way, which was systems, and then get to leadership. The point is, it's not one or the other. You're never going to get the success you desire, or long-term success. You might get successful, and then it's like getting up to the top of the hill, and you're going to come down as fast as you did if you don't get your mind right. For me, getting my mind right, and there are a lot of seminal moments, but again, Dan Holohan, and this time it was a tag team. Dan Holohan and Ellen Rohr separately in the 90s said, you got to pull up. And right now, you got to go read this book by Michael Gerber, The E-Myth, which to me, it's amazing. 30 years down the road, that book has got a whole new life and great for it happening, because what it taught me, if you're always working in the business and never on it, nothing's going to change. And we were 17 million, 70 people staff, and that's 17 million when 17 million was real money in the 90s. And that was really the important stuff.
This is kind of taking a direction that I really like, because we haven't really talked about this part of the importance of mindset on this podcast yet. And so as entrepreneurs, you and I, we all look at a mountain and we go, okay, we're going to climb that mountain. And then we just start going. We just start walking towards the mountain, and we don't think, okay, there's a river up there, so I'm going to build a bridge, and there's this and that and all this. We don't think about that stuff. We just start going, and we go, we're going to figure that out along the way. And that's a really good thing to have as entrepreneurs. But the negative that comes from that is that inability to release the need to other people to help build the system that's going to drive that. And so we end up with this stubbornness of, I can figure everything out on my own. And so I think that part of the mindset, we all think we want to have the mindset of confidence, go forward, get things done, do all this stuff. That's really great. That's a good part of your mindset. But there's another part of mindset that we overlook, which is there are some things that we need to delegate and give to other people and release some control. And that is a really hard thing to do. We struggle with that all the time, where it's like, and it lives in your head, and you don't even realize that what you're doing is living in your head, and it's just happening, and you're not delegating that. And so you can only scale so far, because you can only do so much as an individual. And so I think what you're saying, and tell me if I'm wrong or right here, but that you have the vision and all this stuff, but the integration of that vision into systems is another part that we have to have in our mindset of saying, hey, we've got to, when we do figure it out, when we do know how to swim, we've got to learn to delegate and give up some of that control so that we can scale.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. And it was the great Jack Tessler who was the original head of C2000 when I was in with Ellen, which became Nexstar. And we're riding along in a a bumpy school bus in Oklahoma because we're doing a next door tour of shops, and I said to him, I go, hey, now that there's 140 shops, so that tells you how long ago it was. They're like 400.
Yeah.
I said, what do you see the difference between, winners and losers, in terms of that owners and stuff? He goes, it's always the owner. And I go, well, it's not me, it's my staff, and it's, and I just went into the whole down, excuse me, how many bodies could I throw in front of this bus?
Yeah.
And he just says, stop. I have owners in markets that are 10,000 making tons of money.
Yeah.
And I have owners in a market of 2 million losing their shirt.
Yeah.
It is always the owner, and they have to do two things. I said, okay, well, what are the two things? They have to inspire, and they have to implement. I go, what do you mean by that? He goes, there's a lot of guys that are, rah, we're going to be the best company ever. We're going to be the best out there. And we're going to dominate the market. And it gets everybody pumped up. And then they get into a white truck with a cracked windshield and a flat tire. How long will they stay inspired?
Right.
He said, then I have guys they have every system. They have it all nailed, great looking trucks, great marketing, all these things. But no one understands why they're there. No one buys into this. And frankly, most of them don't even trust the owner. So he says, from now on, remember, it's inspire and implement, not one, both.
I want everybody that's listening to this to just take a second. If you have to write that down, that was the most powerful. That's it's so simple, but it is so profound. And that's usually how profound things come out, is extremely simple. And it's like, it's true when you hear it too, because you've seen guys that are super inspiring that they walk the walk, but they don't, or they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, and then vice versa, right? The guys that and this is where you see people with a lot of money come in and go, I'm just going to invest a bunch of money into making sure I got all these cool vans and cool logo. I'm going to hire all the right people, and they fall on their face, right? Yep. Because they did all the systems, then they copied. I'm going to copy this guy over here, what he's doing. I'm going to, and they fall right on their face because they're missing the talk part. They're missing the other side. That's so interesting.
And I would add what Justin mentioned before, is if you do all of that, you could still be missing one of the biggest pieces. What Justin said is it's not authentic.
Yep, exactly.
Everybody loves this R&D thing that came out, rob and duplicate. And I understand we can be inspired, but if your whole way to market and everything is rob and duplicate, you're just building your beautiful home on really crappy ground. That's as nice as I can say it.
There is no workaround, everybody. There's no workaround. I'm going to figure out a different way. I'm going to go around. You have to be authentic. There's the guy, this reminds me of the story of the guy. He comes out of MBA school. He gets some entrepreneur said, hey, I'm going to give you $50 million to go and find your dream, right? And he goes and he buys a bunch of companies and goes, yep, we're going to follow all these things that I learned in MBA school. I'm going to do all this. I'm going to do all this. I'll do this. And he was, what was cool about him is he was willing to admit this, but he goes, and we spent all $50 million on building this business. And here we are 2 years later, I've lost $12 million.
That's like the guy with Virgin Airlines.
Yeah.
They said, like, how do you make $100 million in the airplane business? You go, start with $1 billion.
Yeah, start with $1 billion. Yep, exactly. How do you get to 100 million? Exactly, and it's so true, and it's so clear. We see it, and this is almost actually, it's kind of scary sometimes to actually fully accept this reality, because as owners, you realize how exposed you are when people see your business and they see if you're successful or not. It's like, that's on you, and it's like, no, I swear it's on this, it's on this. Nope, you are exposed as the owner. It's on you. The reason, and it's like, oh shoot. So you can look at businesses and go, yep, I know that owner. I know who he is because I see his business.
Yeah.
So,
I had 25 techs, and Richie, my middle brother, and I usually used to be the last two techs standing in the office at 2 a.m. And we would have the most inane conversations ever, but the best ones. And Richie would say things to me like, why don't they do this? And why don't they do that? And why don't they do this? And I said, Richie, if they could do all of what you just rattled off, why would they be working here? Why wouldn't they be down the road in their own company? You get the whole employee, not the ones that you want. You get the whole thing. And then, so we just started talking about things like this, which was, he says to me, again, another 2 a.m. epiphany. He said to me, you know what, I've been thinking, now that we've set things up, people can have a bad day here, but they can't have a bad week and a bad month. If we can't get them to have a good day, a good week, good month, then we have to help them move to someplace else where they can have that. And Richie was not born like, huggy, but he was always authentic. And I'm stealing a word from you, John. Richie would walk into a room and people would go, how soon can you start? He hadn't even talked yet. Yeah. Because they just knew he was there to serve him in a way that no one else was going to serve him. He was the closest or the second coming of my dad.
Man, that is so cool. That is so cool. So tell us about 7 Power Contractor. What is it? What is it? What's the core? Go into that.
Yeah, so the 7 powers are planning is number 1. And the reason I always did planning is because way back in the dark ages of my time is we had webinars and seminars to attend. We had, trade magazines. We had, network associations and stuff like that. And guess what? We would get a lot of good ideas. So many good ideas that we were totally confused.
Yep.
Or worse yet, we started them all. So planning power really was, one day I walked in my office, I needed to get something done. Remember, there were 70 some odd people, and I said, I need help with this. And everyone was too busy. And I said, well, whatever you've got, grab it, come into the conference room and bring it with you. This is a day of paper. And we just piled up a desk with all these things.
Yeah.
Here's what that enlightening moment taught me. 2 people were working on the same project, and neither one knew the other one was doing it. The other projects were projects they all swore were that was super important to me, and I didn't even know about them. So this was the moment where we just said, okay, stop. And so from there on, we've created the funnel of the master project list, where every great idea that you have as a project or a habit goes to live in the master project list, top of the funnel. And it has to work its way down the funnel to the top 30 by fixing the biggest problem or challenge, the greatest chance to grow and be profitable. And you can't do 30 things at once, although there's a lot of you who think you can.
Yeah.
You can do 30 things at once badly.
Yep.
And it'll be like throwing a rubber ball against the wall because it's coming back. So you use the filters again, fixes biggest problem or challenge, greatest chance to grow and be profitable. And then you get down to your top 5. And the top 5 is, no matter how crazy your week is, no matter how important everything you've got to do, you said these 5 things would fix your biggest problem or challenge, greatest chance to grow and profitable. So you tell me why you did not spend time this week working on those top 5. And that is really where the progress begins. Now, there are a lot of subtleties to this, how you define the top 5. Here's the stupidity. A lot of times people will put down marketing as one of their top 5. Are you ever going to stop marketing?
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you can't.
So why don't you just go
solve the problem of marketing?
Yeah, just do direct mail postcard campaign, or follow-up campaign, or billboards, and so that it becomes doable, chewable, and we can get it to it done.
Yeah, that's like saying
that's really planning power. And now that you guys who are listening to this podcast, and this is the only podcast, by the way, that there is. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 10,000 podcasts out there, including my own podcast.
And you stumbled onto the one. Holy cow.
You are the one. But, there's just so much information. I thought I had it bad. I really have empathy for you. You've got so many ideas coming at you at so much speed. How do you handle it? And I'm imploring you. Planning power is the best way that I know, having worked with so many people, including guys that you all know, like Tommy Mello, who's got a million ideas in a minute. Yep. You've got to be able to have some way to kind of flow it. And it also helps pull the team together. That's where leadership team working on this top 5 really makes a big difference. You came on to the really one about delegation. So I watched Tommy in 2017 walking down the hallway, and he'd stick his head in and go, "Hey, take care of that," and then go down the other hallway. Take care of that. Take care of that. Come back into the office, and we're sitting in there, and I go, "You know what you just did?" He goes, "Yeah, I told people that the stuff they need to do." I go, "No, you didn't. You dumped it.
You dumped
How's
it.
it working?" Because it's going to come back at you, and you're going to be disappointed with them, and then that's going to teach you what it used to teach me is, why did I delegate anything to Justin and Ryan? Because they never get anything done, and they don't do it the way I want. I'm just going to do it myself, which is what keeps us small. Stick your arms out as far as you can. It's a great exercise, as far as you can. All you can do by yourself is here.
Oh, that's
all of everything else you need to do is out there. So get over yourself. Now, I believe in having the right org chart, obviously, having manuals that cover 80% of what to do, and then your delegation is to do the stuff that's outside of the normal thing, because they already know that. But if you're going to delegate everything and there's no resources, it's delegation, 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 and this steps of delegation are a written set of steps. Not you and I in the hallway go, "Hey, Ryan, I need you to get that next campaign out. You got $12. Go get them."
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And so there's steps too about defining it, and there's steps about what you have as resources, how long do you have, what's the meeting schedule, and then like all things in marketing, you can do the best marketing campaign in the world, but if you don't have this, your marketing doesn't work, which is called a CTA, call to action, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the bottom of the steps of delegation, the call to action is a WIFM. What's in it for me? What do I get if I do get this project in on time and have it? And what happens if I don't? Because that's the motivation for the.
I really like that. I really like that, because I think one of the hard things about delegating, especially if you're an owner in a company or higher up in the company, is number one, it's hard to trust that someone's going to do it maybe as good as you would do it, and then number two, it's hard to believe someone's going to care as much as you care, and so it makes it hard to delegate that stuff. And so my question was going to be, well, Al, when you delegate it, how do you actually track it after to make sure that they've done a good job? But I really like what you just talked about, because you're saying, all right, as long as you get this project done and do a good job, here's what you're going to get from it, and if you don't, then here's what you're going to get from it. So you've already kind of set yourself up in that way.
Yeah, so I'll just use the direct mail postcard campaign. Is that okay?
Yep.
So I've defined what I want from a direct mail postcard. I like laser focused ones, which means you send it out to 500 to 1,000 some odd people just to find out. You can do an A/B campaign, which means two different marketing things.
Yep.
But I define it very clear. I have a sample of it. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to promote. Here's what you have. We have a marketing company that people put postcards together. We want to do 3 mailings over 6 weeks so that we can test and get really good objective information to find out whether or not we'll have a special code on it for the promotional things so we can track it. Because the whole idea about delegation is it needs to be objective. Because otherwise, I thought I did a good job, and then at the end, you're going to yell at me because it wasn't the vision in your head. It was the vision in my head. And so then I've written that out, and I go, what resources, what people can they borrow, where are the access? I need it done in 2 months. I don't wait 2 months to find out if you did it. Because if that's the case, I'll be wildly surprised you got it. Or more likely, I'm going to be totally frustrated and I wasted 2 months. And then I'll be tempted to take it back. So it's 2 months, Justin. We're going to meet every week for these 2 months to see where you are. We need a testimonial from a customer who says this product or service was so great. And then we need a really great call to action. And if you can do this because you are on the marketing tree in this marketing assistant box, you are setting yourself up to go to marketing assistant to marketing pro, which is our next box above. Or there's a one-time, if you get these campaign out on time, we measure it out, we've got it really good. I built into it $1,000 of a bonus one time for you doing that. Going to get a lot more traction with that.
Yeah, that's really cool. This is real. This is opening my mind up big time because you think I'm using the two words dumping versus delegating.
Yeah.
There's a very clear difference between dumping versus delegating, and there's an actual process to properly delegate something to somebody when we think we're doing it by saying, "Hey, figure this out and do this thing." And it's like we're not, we're just dumping it on. It's such a good simple way to put it. You're just dumping it on them and going, "Hey, figure it out and make sure it's to my standard and
Yeah,
to
I
what
think
I
the difference is
expect."
I think the difference is just expectations. When you dump, you're not setting up clear expectations, and when you delegate, you're actually setting up expectations. When you
Yeah.
delegate.
And some of that, Justin, is starting with the end in mind. If you can't define what the end in the mind and the goal is in a way that they repeat it back to you, so I've just told you what I want in direct mail postcard. I'm looking for a 10% open rate or respond rate or whatever way that I'm doing it. So I've defined the objectives. And we talked about the postcards. And then I go, I've been talking a long time. Justin, tell me what you heard.
Yeah.
Because what I learned also in training was that people, when you talk, and especially if you do sales, you'll know this. When I was speaking early on in my sales program, people would be nodding and smiling. So I, as a dumb early salesperson, thought, well, they're buying.
Yeah.
Really what was over their head was a cartoon balloon that says, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm never going to let you know.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem here too. What I think it should be. No, define the end, reverse engineer it for this project, and then have them repeat back.
Make sure they understand
what it is that we want. And then until I've got that, my chances of success with delegation is going to be compromised. That makes sense?
That makes total sense, and that brings up a really good point, especially when you're talking about make them, repeat it to you. Me and Ryan just had a conversation about this. Aside from the fact that maybe they're just not fully listening to what you're saying, people hear what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Someone could go to Ryan, tell Ryan something, and he hears something, and then they come to me, and they tell me the same thing. And we've heard two completely different things just because we hear what we want to hear as human beings, according to a lot of stuff. But
a lot of stuff. So when I talk about rolling out manuals, they're read out loud, and we do a lot of these things where they are the ones talking. Because really, we only listen to the words that fall out of our mouth. You can talk. I was lucky my teenage daughter didn't appreciate it at the time, but when she was a teenager, I was talking and she was doing this in front of me.
Oh,
and I realized I could talk all day. She was clearly not listening. And that's when you get a room full of people, if they're not speaking, we don't know what really landed.
Yeah.
And so that's what they call a tell me. And that was also, there's a show me and a tell me. Show me you can do this and a tell me, which is what I had to do with all of my technical training, because I started taking willing apprentices with no skills to willing techs with great skills. All of the top people at my company all started with me as willing apprentices with no skills, rose up to service manager, install manager, all the top positions in the company before I left. I do want to get to one thing because I know we're here for Win Your Mind.
Yeah.
So I want to share how broken my mind was.
I was just about to say, let's transition into this because you had mentioned earlier, and I want to go into it, but you had mentioned earlier when you showed up to the swimming pool and the guy was drowning in the pool, you're like, this isn't the time for me to tell you certain things. It's later. That guy's drowning. His mindset is shot. Let's start there. Where are you,
So that's why planning we talked about is first.
Yep.
Then next is operations, which is the org charts, the manuals, which handles the 80% of what goes on. It's the foundation under your company. Staffing is you won't do what you need to do, won't hold anybody accountable if you don't know how to take willing people and provide the skills so they can move up in your company. I don't care what.
Right.
And so then there's sales, learning the right sales. And for techs and system advisors, which is big ticket salespeople, there's a 5-step process.
Yep.
You can have a 3-step, 5-step, 7-step, 10-step. If you have a 100-step sales process, good luck to you.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's not going to be followed. And then, of course, marketing, which is a marketing plan in writing with a marketing budget, which is basically fuel in the tank. Then marketing allocation. What are the 3 main drivers, ways you're going to go to market? That doesn't mean it's the only 3, but that gets the majority of your time, energy, and money. And then what everyone misses, because I missed it for years, which is a marketing calendar, which starts backwards through the year. So you're always putting out marketing.
Yeah.
Especially because I believe, and I just wrote this article recently about people go, oh, it's slowing down. What should we do? I said, well, you should always do the following, which is get great testimonials from your ideal customers. And when you think you have enough, go back out and get more. Whatever you tell me, Mr. Owner, is semi-interesting. What I really want to hear from are people that look like me and live where I live.
Yeah, huge. That's huge.
So Al, tell us
the
a
3
little
things I was broken. Let me get the 3 things I was broken.
That's what I was going to ask. Yep.
I'm super
Not good.
curious.
I knew that, Justin, but I just wanted to cut you off because I'm like a New Yorker.
All right.
So I was lucky enough to have the great Dan Holohan, who was one of the great, not just great writers, but he was a great heating guy. And he would come to jobs with me. And we leave a job, and I'm in my truck. And now please be understanding, this is the 90s.
Yeah.
My pager's going off on my belt. My 2A radio, everyone's calling me. And my bread box phone is ringing. And he looks over from the passenger seat and says to me, you think that's normal, don't you? And for a second, I was fuming. All these people clawing at me.
Yeah.
And 2 seconds later, I thought to myself,
It is normal.
I'm pretty important. Well, I would say I'm almost indispensable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I finally had to dig into why didn't I give all this information that I always had and make it more available to everyone else? It's because I loved being the rescuer. I loved to ride in and save the day. I loved to be the fireman. I loved to be the one who could put the fire out. Here's the sneakier one. If there was no fire, unconsciously I would set fires. And the last one is I got all of this training, all of this knowledge. You guys don't know it, really? Would you like to learn from me? Because I'll be happy to share it with you. I love to be the guru.
Love to be important.
So all of you who are out there and you're like me, what made us great is because we have all these things. What will kill your progress is if you hang on to rescuer, fireman, and guru.
Wow.
Those are the things that get in our way.
That's where we talk about releasing that thing we hold so dearly and so tightly to our, it's like we're so stubborn about it and going, nope, and it's subconscious. It's not about making money. It's I like to be the fireman. I like to rescue. I like to be important. I like the phone calls, even though I'll say, oh man, these guys are calling me. Deep down you're going, yeah. But
what am I paying all these people for?
Yeah, I'm so important. Yeah. And it's like you actually don't want to solve the problem. You want it because you're feeding that ego.
Yes.
You're feeding it.
Yes.
Going,
Yes. You guys both understand it really well. That is so fun. It's funny when we say it because I was lucky in my life. I had a lot of people who would hold up what I came to call the truth mirror to me. Because left to my own devices, I would make up like all the things I said before. It's not me, it's not my fault, it's all these people and whatever. But I had a great friend who was a service manager in New Jersey on the other side of the river from me. And I was moaning to him about how much competition I have and all these other things. And then he lets me vent. And then he says, Al, the only competition you had is the guy you were looking at when you shaved this morning.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I was so busted.
Yep.
But it was done out of love.
Oh yeah.
And you got to be able to take it. If you can't take it, you're not going to make it.
That's incredible.
I waited a second, Justin, to rhyme that one.
Yeah. It's so cool to hear this, even though you think you know these things, and you always want to think that you are, on top of your game, and then you hear them and you go, wait, can I be can I be better at this? Can I step back and be even more objective and more objective? Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right? It's like, am I being objective with my business, or am I responding from my ego and what I want rather than what the business needs to scale, you know? And so hearing it over and over is like, and I think at every level there's a shaving, just like what you said with Michelangelo, right? It's like we may right at this point have the shape now carved out of David, but we zoom in and we're not anywhere near the level of detail that he got to, right? And so it's like takes that zooming in a little bit and going, okay, now I need to chisel down even further and further and get even more high def on this until I am, and I don't think we ever get there, but because we can always zoom in and see that we're not as clear as we want to be. And so that's just really cool to hear it from you, Al, because that so what was it for you? So he teaches you these things, and obviously the competition is in the mirror, that turning point. What would you say to somebody that's struggling with this or is in this broken mindset? What's kind of the path out?
I think, the books, the readings, the podcasts, be careful that you don't pull ideas from all over the place. And I talk about that in my book about the Frankenstein approach. Yeah. It may be a great idea, but they don't all fit together. So you end up building a Frankenstein. But then I tried to, let's face it, most of us contractors are car guys. And so I said, if I gave the two of you the power to build your dream car, would you start with a Ford chassis, Toyota engine, Hyundai seats? Of course not.
Yep.
And so, but that's what we do in business because of what you'd mentioned before, Ryan, about, oh, that's the magic solution I need. There it is.
Yep.
There it is.
Yep.
Yeah. You need a system. So whether it's mine, the 7 powers, planning, operations, staffing, sales coaching, marketing, finance, or whatever that system is, so that you can filter information coming in and implement it in a way to make sure that it's cohesive.
This is so important because we live in an era where we think we have all the knowledge when really we just have information. So we are drowning we're suffocating in information. You can easily say, well, I can go learn that on YouTube. Yeah. How do you know this? You can learn it from a million directions. You can learn how to build an engine from a Ford guy and from a Toyota, all these different directions. It's all there, it's all available. It's how do you actually systematize that and turn that information into knowledge, and then that knowledge into wisdom. And I think that's a big problem with the age we live in and having so much access to stuff, that we do get that bright, shiny object syndrome where we go, oh, that's cool, Al said this over here, but this guy said this and he has more money over here, so I'm going to follow this guy, and then I'm going to listen to him for a minute, and then he's going to say something, and you're just piling in information and you're suffocating.
And some of it is directly contrary.
And because what works for him doesn't work for this guy. It's like
it's not the same market. Go back in ancient history, 2005.
Yep.
The way to grow big was double truck ads in the yellow pages, depending on where you were. It was a way to get super rich or super broke. Because it really depended where you were, how many books you had to be in.
Right.
Well, guess what? It exactly applies to Google and SEO. Right. We just moved it into a different instrument. Mm-hmm. And you could spend money, pay per click and really get rich or get really broke because you've got all the wrong search words, phrases, all the other kinds of things that go in. It's always going to be like that. You've got to make sure it's integrated, tested. And tested is a word that some people just don't get. And for you guys, follow up.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, man.
Follow up. Yep. Remember the bathtub with the wide open drain? Does that sound familiar?
Yep.
Because it should.
Yep.
If someone came to me and Ryan, if you asked me that same question, how could someone break through if they really wanted to make some changes?
Yeah.
Number one, they gotta want it.
That's
it's an internal thing. It's an internal thing. So number one, they gotta want it. After that, I would tell them take 100% accountability for where they're at in life. 100%. It doesn't matter what happened to them, bad experiences that they went through. I get it. Shit happens, and some of it's unfair. But that would be first and foremost. Number two, surround yourself with people that are better than you or that are that are at where you want to be. Surround yourself people that are at where you want to be. Number 3, move your body. If you want to get out of the mind, you have to move into your body. So physical exercise. Number 4, learn, like you talked about, Al, podcasts, books, stuff like that. And then 5, I would just say, get back into your passions. It's important to find stuff that you're passionate about in life and have fun. For me, it's softball and pickleball and sports and stuff like that. But anyways, that's what I would recommend to someone that was really...
I think what you're saying, Justin, is really relevant because, this is coming from an addict, standpoint of how to recover from addiction. And if we all kind of accepted the idea that we are addicted to whether it's social media, whether it's food, whether it's, there's so much more than just being addicted to drugs.
Workaholic, like I said before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if we can accept this, and then like you said, Al, you're addicted to being the fireman. You're addicted to being the ego.
Yeah.
And so if we take that same approach that we would tell a drug addict and say, hey, you've got to do these things, we could say the same thing about any one of us and say, no, you got to do the same to get over that thing. You need to take these steps to do that. So
I would like to just share it because I know we're running out of time here. But the big thing is, I'm very blessed. People call. I offer a free 30-minute to this day, and it's my give back to the industry.
Yeah.
And if my programs are appropriate, that's a way to help. But that's not the reason for the call. I feel if you've been helped, you're obligated to help others. I know I kind of choke up on it after all this time, but I really believe that. If you have suffered and somebody reached their hand out, and I have had so many mentors, and I think I had it pretty lucky. You can say, losing your mom was not a lucky thing, and growing up in New York City was very bad when I grew up. I mean, bad. And so on a good day, they would break into my house, break into my car, break into my business.
Yeah.
Try keeping your mental set good on that one, Justin.
Right.
No, Al, I appreciate you saying that. I just added that to the list, but give back, help. I think that's a huge one. My mentor taught me service. My mentor taught me it's a universal principle, but it's if you want something, give it away. So it's the law of tithing. It's the law, like if you want love, give it away. If you want money, give it away. It's a universal principle. So anyways, I appreciate you sharing that.
Al,
all right.
This has just been like mind-blowing for me. It's been so awesome. I want to make sure everybody listening has the opportunity, if they want to connect with you. Where should they go? What should they do?
The very best thing is to go to my website, the number 7 powercontractor.com. There is a ton of information there. I've been around a long time and learned a lot of things from a lot of people, and frankly, myself falling in a hole, dragging myself out, and paying attention as to why I went in that hole so I don't go back in.
Yeah.
So on that, you'll find a lot of information. There are my products, and in terms of my books and my 2 online programs. But it's really there for you. And if you want, there, bottom right side, there's a connect with us. Just reach out, mention that you heard this and that you'd like to set up a free 30. It is not a sales call. We're there to talk about your business. I will talk about my programs as appropriate, but you're under no obligation to do anything other than my hope and wish for you two to discover less stress and more success. That's what's been fueling me. It fuels me to this day.
That's so cool. Coming from me as a person, I've had the opportunity to spend time with Al. I've met him on many occasions. We've spoken on stages together. I can say 100% that I would recommend anything that he puts out, because what he's putting out is coming from a place of total authenticity. So check out 7powercontractor.com if you want to connect with Al. Adam as a friend on Facebook. He's a very approachable, very real, and very funny person. As you know, you can check out his TikTok where he does break dances. It's very he's got really great stuff there. But Al, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm hoping to nudge into first place.
Awesome. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening again to another episode of Win Your Mind, Win Your Market. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks.